tore down. We removed both batteries, the battery box, the boost pipe, going to the intercooler, or going from the turbo to the intercooler on the driver's side. We undid this bracket for the computer, and then that gave us enough room to get into the valve cover bolts. And then on the valve cover, you don't need to remove the valve cover vent to get to these bolts back here. All you need is just an open end wrench, break them free, and I just spun them out with my fingers.
13 mil, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And then you can update on your side.
Well, I think on the plug, these plugs are hooked into the gasket, and we found they were really hard to get apart. We didn't want to wreck the wiring on the truck, so we took a pair of side cutters and just popped each side like this, allowing us to take it off the truck without risking breaking the wiring that's hooked to the engine itself. On the passenger side, I pulled the battery. Again, a lot of this is just for access, and it takes a few seconds to pull the battery. Got the boost tube off. Pulled the map sensor hose off the manifold, get it out of the way. Just again, give me some room to pull. I run into one problem over here, and that was on the oil dipstick. This thing is sandwiched. It's a stud, and then it's sandwiched on. I was unable to get underneath there with my open end wrenches to hold the stud. There was just no way I could get in there. It's kind of bent over a little bit and crowned, and I couldn't get there. So we ended up just taking the impact gun and shooting it off. That did rip it off of the oil dipstick. So we're either going to have to weld that back on, plugging up this hole on the dipstick, or we'll replace the dipstick. That was really the only issue I had on this side. Everything else come off good. There is a bolt all the way on the back. I found that it was still pretty easy to get to, and for the ones right here next to the heater core, I just used an open end, got them broke free, and then they were pretty much finger loose. So we're gonna take a trip. We're gonna get the glow plugs and the gaskets. We forgot those at the other garage. We're gonna get a little piece of clear tube, which should help us to spin those glow plugs in and out. And
we found this.
Oh yeah.
So this is the top of the glow plug, and it was just stuck dangling in one of the plugs. And you can see this is all melted because this was just arcing in there because it wasn't screwed into the glow plug. You can see on the end of this where it had been arcing, and it kind of melted the end of the threads. So that's definitely an issue of why that one cylinder didn't have any glow plug at all. So.
Well, we're thinking that was probably shorting out the glow plug system,
yeah,
and was why we're having trouble with cold starts.
Yep.
Anyway, we'll be back. We're gonna go get our stuff, and so far we probably are in an hour.
An hour.
So this isn't bad so far. This has been a pretty good job. So we'll see if that stays that way. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
So we just buttoned it up, and this is just a couple things that we kind of learned. So this is some 3/16 diameter fuel line, and when you're unscrewing the injectors, you'll get to a certain point where you won't be able to get it out with the socket on it. So you break it loose, and you can spin it a little bit, but it won't come out. So you just slide the fuel line onto the end here, and then you can spin the injector out the rest of the way, because you can't get your fingers in there and the socket won't come out. So that was really nice. That made it really, really easy. Worked great. And when we were in there, this truck has been having problems starting when it's cold out unless you plug it in. And this is the end of the glow plug. This is a good one. And this piece came unscrewed, and it was arcing inside of there, and it messed it up pretty good. And then charred the end of the plug and the wiring. So that should be our problem. And we replaced the gaskets with the harnesses and everything. We just did the whole thing while we were in there, and it should be good. So, anything you have to add?
No, I don't think so. 7.3, in my opinion, was easier than the 6.0 on the glow plugs. But we'll see. We haven't fired it up yet. And of course, we got to get this thing back out of the garage. You guys remember on the intro coming in, it's going to be gnarly to get back out. So,
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you got questions, put them in the comments. Alright, so in order to get the truck back out, I just threw a welding clamp on the door that held it up high enough that the truck could get out. So that's it. Truck is done. We'll take it for a test drive, but we should be good.